Good. So we can see my screen. I hope everyone can see it, and I hope everyone can hear me well. I'll apologize in advance due to the world going crazy. I was not able to find someone to watch my kid today, so he might come as a guest star at some points, and there might be some crying and screaming behind me. I hope it'll be okay. I'm sure it will be. So welcome to the, I think it's the 5th Flashissue webinar. Who am I? My name is Alon. I manage Flashissue development and support, and I also do these monthly webinars for the last few months now. I'm based in Israel, so it's about 7:30 p.m. for me right now. And I hope everyone is okay wherever you are. So today's agenda, a few words about previous webinars. If you haven't attended them, I just want to make sure you know that we covered a lot of content already. So if we don't answer your question today, it might have been answered in a previous webinar. In fact, some of you asked questions that were answered in previous webinars, so I'm just going to refer you to the time marker of the recordings for the other webinars. Next in the agenda, we're going to look at a new feature we recently added to Flashissue, change in the reports. Then we have a bunch of questions that people sent in advance. I'm going to cover those. And at the end of the webinar, I want to show you a sneak peek of something we've been working on. But that's going to be a surprise, and I'm not even going to explain what it is until we get there. So without further ado, let's get on with it. So previous webinars, we've been doing this every month since October, I think. We've had 4 webinars already, except not including this one today. The first one was all about marketing. It was by our CEO, Lior, who is a marketing wizard. If you use Flashissue for your business, I highly recommend taking the time to watch it. It's about 1 hour, but there's a lot of value in it, and people usually pay Lior a lot of money for this kind of consulting, so I highly recommend watching that. The other 3 webinars were more focused on Flashissue and features. We cover a lot. I think we covered pretty much everything there is to do with Flashissue in those webinars. So, and the good thing is, if you go to YouTube, to our channel on YouTube, you can see all of them. And Maya and Karen, they not only upload the YouTube videos, they also add in the description quick links to specific topics, so you can jump straight to the topic that you're interested in, and you don't have to watch the entire hour every time. I highly recommend looking at those if you don't find an answer to your question today. So the first thing I want to show is a minor change we made, but I think it adds a lot of value. It's in fact something we promised. I don't know if you've been here in the webinar in December, but at the end of the December webinar, I listed a bunch of features and updates and changes that we're going to implement or add to Flashissue in the first quarter of 2021. And this is the first quarter of 2021, even though it kind of feels like it's still 2020. January is gone, and the first new feature is already there. So we've updated the reports in Flashissue. So you used to be able to see who opened and who your messages. Now you can also see who did not open your newsletters. And let me just jump into a report here. As usual, I stole Maya and Karen's Flashissue account. And if I go to any report and click on View Details, you'll notice that I have sent, who got this, and then opens and no opens. So now I can see exactly who did not open my newsletter, not just who did open them. To keep this screen organized, we've merged the bounces and spam tabs. So now there's a bounces and spam tab instead of 2 separate tabs that show it. Yeah, that's my kid in the background here. And now the nice thing is you can actually see this information for your old reports. So even though we just added this feature, we build it in a way that makes it work for all your past newsletters. So if I go to a newsletter from from December, before we implemented this, I can still see the no opens here. I don't have to. It's not only for the new newsletters. So this is available for everyone. It's already live in Flashissue. And of course, we're going to also add an option to export just those no opens. And just like I mentioned, let me just close the door here to get a bit more quiet. Sorry. And just like I mentioned in the previous webinar, when we one of the major things we're going to change is the ability to send newsletters not just to lists, and this is the first step. So the next step for this feature would be you'll be able to tell Flashissue, send this newsletter to people who did not open a previous newsletter. It's not ready yet, but it's coming really soon. I hope it's coming this month in February, and of course, we'll let you know when it does. But the no opens report, that's already available in your Flashissue account, so go ahead and try it out. Okay, moving onwards. Your questions. We got a nice number of questions from you in advance for this webinar. We highly appreciate it that you send it in advance, because it lets us, prepare the answers and be able to better explain things. So first one was from Lillian. She said she feels the editor it's too limiting. The text editor is too small, and I couldn't agree more. I also think that the editor was used to be a bit small, and that's why there's a way to fix it. So let's see how we can do that. I'll just open my Flashissue account here. Sorry, this is my Flashissue account. Now, if I click on a text box, if you're seeing this is I'm guessing this is what Lillian mentioned. It's a pretty small window. It's not very comfortable to work with, and that's why you can change it. So let's close it. And what I'm going to do now, you only have to do once. Once you do it once, you don't have to do it every time you open Flashissue. If you click on your account name at the top right and go to settings, there's a bunch of options here, and one of them is use full screen editor. So if I check this box here and click on save settings, now when I click on a text box, it opens a big, comfortable editor that you can use. I know it's still narrow, but that's on purpose, because email is always sent in a narrow format. That's simply how email is done. So this is how you can get a much nicer and bigger editor. Also, if you're new to Flashissue, you might not know that, but this toolbar here, this last button here, actually opens up a bunch of other options. So if you're missing something, it might be hidden in this advanced toolbar. So that's for Lillian. Lillian, I hope if you're here and I missed I did not understand your question correctly, go ahead and let us know. But if this was it, this is how you solve it. This is how you can get a bigger text editor. And of course, if I log out and log back in, it remains this way, right? I don't have to do it every time. And if you do want to go back to the smaller editor, that's fine. You can just go back to settings and uncheck it. It's still there. So whatever works for you. I like the full screen editor myself. Next, now we got a few questions from John, Mark, and Kelly separately, but each one of them asked the question in a slightly different way. But they were all about using images inside Flashissue and how to wrap text around them and how to edit the image. Now, first of all, this was covered in I think in the second webinar. But this we get asked about this a lot, so I'm going to do a quick demo just to show you the different options. And I'm going to from the onset, I'm going to say you cannot do everything. So some things you cannot do. There are limits to what you can do with images and word wrapping. Some of them have a technical reason. Others are just limitations of our product right now, and we'll talk about that at the end as well. So let's go to Flashissue and look at the most basic way to use an image is just to add an image to the newsletter here, right? So if I click an image, I can add an image. I can either select a file from my my computer, or I can connect cloud services like Google Drive or Instagram or Facebook or whatever I want. Or my favorite is using Unsplash, which gives you high quality, completely free images to use. So let's search for Flash, and there we go. We'll grab this nice image here and just click on upload. And now Flashissue connects to Unsplash, and it optimizes the image for email, and it uploads it here. So this is how I add an image, right? But Flashissue also has a built-in image editor. So if I click on edit, there we go. Now we have this nice editor, and I can do really whatever I want. I can resize it. I can crop it. I can draw on it, right? I can add shapes like arrows, whatever I want. And the nice thing about the image editor is that it actually has undo. So I can undo and redo and do whatever I want to do here. Let's add some clouds. See, I like it. It's a fun editor. And when I'm done, I just click on I'll click on apply here. I'll click on save, and that's it. It saves the image. It uploads the the uploaded image into Flashissue, and we're done. So this is how you edit an image. But a question we often get is, how do I wrap text around an image? So let's see that. The simplest way to use a text in an image is to use these text image or image text options. So what this does is just give you a simple, a text box and then an image next to it. The text doesn't wrap around the image. It just sits there. I'll just pick a random image here. Doesn't really matter which one. And so when I use this text image or image text options, I have an image and I have a text, and it doesn't matter what I write here. It's all going to show next to the image in the newsletter. So when I use that, I edit the text and the image separately. When I click on done, it just puts them like this. Now, I know this looks simple, but my advice is try to use this because it's clean, it's simple, it doesn't involve a lot of coding behind the scene to make the image fit or make the text fit. It creates a simple email, and simple emails work better, not just in terms of design, but also in terms of deliverability. The more complex the formatting of an email, the more likely it is to be marked as spam or promotion. So sometimes, the simple option, it's the better one. But I understand that different Flashissue users have different needs, and you might not care about what I just said, or it's just very important for you to be able to wrap a text around an image. So let's see how we do that. I'm just going to get rid of those here. And I'll add a text, basically, okay, a text box. And I'll click it, and this is my headline. And here, I'm just going to write a lot of text. And I'll just copy paste this line, so we have a lot of text. So we have something to wrap, so we can play with the image. So let's say we have that. And just to see how it looks right now in the newsletter, this is how it looks like. It's just a header and a text, okay? So let's throw an image in it and see what we can do. So I'll start by clicking on the Add Image button here. And let's add an image of a bear. This looks like a fun bear. a lazy bear. So we have this image. I love this image. So we have this image of a bear, and by default, it's just going to show, So if I look at the newsletter now, I have a text and an image. If you ask me, this looks good, a large image and a bunch of text above it or below it. I think it looks good because the image looks good. You can see the image really well now, but that's just my taste, right? So let's see what kind of options we have to wrap the text around the image. First of all, I want to make it smaller, right? Because I can't wrap text around such a large image. So what I can do, if I double click on the image, I get this little pop up here. So let's start by making it much smaller. I'll just set the width to, I don't know, 250. It automatically sets the height for me, and I'll just click OK just to see how it looks like. And there we go. Now we have a smaller image. So let's say I want to wrap the text around it. Okay, I'll double click, and I can say alignment to the right, for example. And there we go. And now it's aligned to the right. And if I drag it, see if I drag and drop it and place it here, now the text wraps around the image. And if I double click on the image and I align it to the left, then it will wrap around it to the left. But now I'm noticing that the text is a bit too tight, and that's okay. If we double click here, you see we have this H space and V space. So H horizontal and V is vertical. So if I add like 10 for the H space, it adds some padding, you see, to the right of the image. So there we go. That's how we can wrap an image. We cannot at the moment. You can't put the image in the middle and have the text wrap around it, but you can either put it on the left or the right. Now, if I click on done and I look at the newsletter, this is how it looks like. And now there's something that's really important to understand about email. Just because it looks good now, it doesn't mean that anyone that gets this email will necessarily see it exactly the same way. And specifically, some email clients like Outlook is notorious, a notoriously bad email client. And other mostly enterprise, email clients, stuff you use in the office, not so much Gmail or Google apps, but Microsoft apps, stuff from Salesforce, stuff like that. In many cases, those applications, they simply don't know how to handle this. They don't know how to wrap text around an image. So you can use this. Just know that for the Outlook users, the people who use the computer in the office with a Windows machine that doesn't use Google or Gmail, they might not see it exactly as you hope. It's not going to overlap. It's just going to be, an image and a text, or a text and an image. It's still going to be an okay email, but you won't get 100%. It won't look like this for 100% of your users, and that's why, again, I highly recommend to just avoid it. You have a good image. You should use good images, good high quality images. The best thing to do with a good image is to let it show. Make it full width, make it stand out, and then add really, really good copy above it or below it or next to it. But you don't have to wrap it in text. Just my opinion. But in case you do want to do it, now it's doable. Okay, you just have to do it inside the text editor. Now, I'm just going to use this because someone just asked me today, support channel, how you can add an alternative description for an image. It's an accessibility feature for people who use screen readers and all kinds of aids for the visually impaired. So inside the text box, if I double click on an image, I also have this alternative text option here. So I can write something like the cutest bear sitting down, doing his best Netflix and chill impression. So an alternative text for an image is just, a description of what this image shows for people who might not be able, for whatever reason, to see the image. And now if I send this email, this alternative text will be part of the image in the email. So I just wanted to use this opportunity to show this. And I think this covers what we got from John, Mark, and Kelly: word wrapping, image placement, and image editing. So moving on, Kristen asked, "What can I do to avoid being marked as spam when I send a newsletter?" I have good news and bad news. The bad news, there's some work to do this, and there's no 100% way to do it. But there are definitely a lot of things you can do to improve your chances. The good news is that we cover this in depth in the December 2020 webinar at the 13:53 minute marker. So if you just go on to our YouTube channel, find the December 2020 webinar, and just jump straight into about just almost into the 14th minute. There's a very detailed explanation of why you might be marked as your message might be marked as spam, and all kinds of things you can do to improve your chances of not being marked as spam. So it's a lot. It's a large topic, so I'm not going to cover it again. It was about 25-30 minutes just to cover it back then. But if after you
sorry, Alon, there's a question in the Q&A.
Mm-hmm.
If you can take a quick look, how many emails will I be able to send without them going to bounce and into spam?
Okay, Rhonda, that's not exactly how it works. So it's not about how many emails you can send before they go to spam or bounce. Again, I can't really cover this right now, but if I try to make it quick, the decision if you're going to spam or promotions, or if the newsletter bounces completely, is made by the receiving side. So if you send your newsletter to 1,000 people, that's 1,000 different decisions made by 1,000 different email clients about your newsletter. You can send one newsletter and be marked as spam, and you can send 50,000 and never be marked as spam. It depends a lot on the content that you use. It depends a lot on who are the people you're sending to. Do they want to receive your newsletter? Did you get their permission? And also, it depends a lot on some technical things, like if you use your own custom domain, there are some steps you can take to improve your chances of not being marked as spam. Again, it's covered in depth. I highly recommend to look at the December 2020 webinar. If after you've viewed it, you still have questions, feel free to send us an email to our support inbox, and we'll follow up. But it's just too much to cover in this webinar, okay? And we did it, we covered it. So Rhonda, I hope you'll have a chance to view the December webinar, and that it will help you. And let's see, I have another question. Yeah, you're welcome. So William asked us, will you add an option to attach PDF files? So right now, no, we don't plan to do it. Again, this was covered in the November 2020 webinar at the 44:27 minute marker. The short answer is that attaching files in a newsletter service opens up a lot of security risks. So at the moment, we're not allowing this. In the webinar, I show how you can easily get around it by hosting your PDF in Google Drive or Dropbox or any other file sharing service. There's always a free version. And then just add a button with a link to download the file. It's secure, it's fast, it's effective, and it's free. So I think it's a good alternative. And right now we don't have a set plan to add this as a feature. So attachments, not sure this is something we're going to add in the near future. Another question we got from Meg was, can we get more fonts in Flashissue? And I think I briefly covered it in a previous webinar, but the short answer is no, but it's not really because we don't want you to have more fonts. It's just because in most cases, these fonts are meaningless. You know, I know that some email editors will let you use a lot of fonts, but the fact is that most email clients ignored it. When you view the newsletter in Gmail, for example, Gmail does not allow you to use fonts. Same goes for Outlook, depending on where the email comes from. But most email clients either ignore fonts or only let you use the most basic fonts. And that's what you can use with Flashissue. So there are some font options here that you can use. We only show you really the basic fonts, the fonts that everyone has on their machine. And even those sometimes may be ignored by the email client. So Matt, I'm sorry I don't have better news, but in general, fonts and email do not go well together. I highly recommend thinking about simple designs, you know, think about the kind of email you usually read and the kind of email you don't read. The ones that look like an ad, the ones that are too designed with a lot of different fonts, with too many colors, you usually skip them. But the emails that interest you, that feel clean and easy to read, easy to the eyes, those are the emails that you open. So think about that before you start doing a lot of design work. And I think those were the questions we have. We did have one more question, which leads me nicely to my next topic here. So someone asked, is it possible to duplicate? I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of the person who asked it, but is it possible to do things like duplicate content inside the newsletter or group together content? And here's the thing. In the last webinar of 2020, I listed some things that we're working on, like the no open reports that we just added. Let's see, I have a little, there we go, typo here. But you know, I didn't tell you the whole story. I said we're going to add a bunch of features, but the fact is we're working on a much larger makeover for Flashissue. And we're working on it. It's really early. I have to admit, it's early. It's not coming in the next few weeks. It's going to take a few months. I hope around 2, not much more than that. But it's going to take some time for us to finish it. But we're working on a big upgrade for Flashissue. Basically, using a completely different editor, very modern. So I'm going to show it. I'm going to give you a quick sneak preview into it. Let me just, I'll have to unshare my screen and then share it differently. Hold on. Okay. So what you're seeing now, I hope you're seeing it. This is Flashissue on my machine, right? This is I'm actually one of the developers. So this is the version of Flashissue that we're working on. You see, first of all, it's much cleaner, and this is a completely different editor. Okay, you can see the kind of designs you can create, much cleaner and nicer. And cool things like adding stuff from Giphy automatically, which I love. You know, I play with it all the time now. You can really control, you know, everything, the colors, the fonts. You can change. You can create complex rows, you know, with different sizes of sections. It's a huge upgrade. So I can show a lot because really this is something where it's really a development version. But I can tell you this is going to be a completely new editor for Flashissue. It's going to be faster. It's going to let you do a lot of the things that we were not able to let you do until now. You'll be able to control every aspect of the design. You'll be able to do things like hide and show sections in mobile. You'll be able to duplicate rows and sections. Even you'll be able to even do things like take this whole row of content and save it and then reuse it in later newsletters. This is going to be really, really nice. Again, this is a few months away, but I just wanted to show you what we're working on. And that's also why most of the features we're going to release in the next, let me just go back to my slides there. That's also why most of the features we're going to release in the next few weeks, even a couple of months, are not going to be around the editor so much, but mostly around lists and options to send to more options to send to your subscribers in more sophisticated ways. Simply because we're just working on a completely new editor. So we're not going to make a lot of changes to the existing one. But of course, we never stop working and we never stop adding new features. So no, Kelly, we're not going to allow uploading music files simply because email doesn't support that. You know, there's also a reason why we don't allow you to when you add a video, you know, when you add a video to Flashissue. So if I add a video here to my newsletter, let me just grab something. You know, email is limited. There's a lot of limitations around email, and one of the limitations, for example, is that you cannot show video inside an email. So what we do, we grab an image, you know, we put this play button on top of it, and when I send this newsletter, what the person sees is just the image, you know, with the play button, and when they click it, we open the video. So you can't play video inside email. Same goes for music. I would love it. I love music. I play piano and drums. I would love to have it in email, but it's just technically impossible, mostly due to security concerns. But it's just, you know, a lot of limitations. Email just has a lot of limitations. But I promise in the next webinar, I'm not sure when it's going to be, but in the next webinar, we're going to show you some more of this new editor. With hopefully by that time we'll have made a lot of progress, and maybe we'll start a beta, you know, a beta sign up list in about a month to let anyone who wants to use the bleeding edge version sign up for that. Okay, I got a question from Lillian here. We're looking at YouTube for Flashissue training. How far back should we go for actual up-to-date learning about Flashissue? What I would do, I would start with the webinars we've been doing because they're the most up-to-date and they cover a lot. But in general, if you go to our help site, if we click on help, you know, if we go to our if we go to the help site, then you can just sorry, that's not what I wanted to show you. Let me just open up our help site just so I can show you what you can see there, because you don't necessarily want to do this in YouTube. You know, you maybe want to do this through our help site. Let me just see how I can show that.
So maybe if you went to the Flashissue site and clicked on help there.
No, sorry, the problem is that I'm logged in as a support agent. So
yes, got it.
Yes, so yeah. So so I'm sorry, but I'll have to share a link to that. So basically, in our support site, you got a list of introduction articles, and each of them has a video. So the best way would be to go there and see those videos. But if you've been playing around with Flashissue already and you have specific questions, you might find the answers in the webinars that we've been doing. I see another question from Carrie Ann. I often try to link to Spotify playlist in my newsletter, even though the links are correct. When you click on them, it takes you to the wrong playlist. Do you know why this is? Is there a way to correct it? No, I don't know why this is. It doesn't sound like something that should happen, Carrie. I'll have to ask you to, send us an email at our support address. It's support@flashissue.com, and give us maybe an example of the newsletter where it happened, and we can look into it. It sounds like something that shouldn't happen. I'm sure we'll be able to figure it out. Just send us an email, and we'll get to the bottom of it. Yep, you're welcome. So that was a sneak peek, and that was it. I think that was it for me. And if you have any questions or ideas, we're always happy to hear them. It doesn't have to be through the webinar. It doesn't have to be live. If you have an idea or a question about Flashissue, you can always contact us at support@flashissue.com. We answer every ticket. It might be me, it might be Destiny or someone else, but we'll do everything to answer. Kelly is asking, what is the My Stuff tab at the top right? Kelly, this whole section here, this whole sidebar, it's called the content sidebar. It deserves a proper explanation, and we covered it. We covered it in detail in one of the previous webinars. Let me just grab my assistant here, and with his help, I'll be able to go to our YouTube channel. Sorry, I have it here. So let's see which webinar it was. There we go. So it was the second webinar. So the second webinar, go to the content curation sidebar in the Clipper section. We cover everything here in a lot of depth. So My Stuff and Clipped and Stories, and that's my kid trying to use my computer. We covered everything here. So I just highly recommend it. You check it out. We covered it in a lot of detail. And that's it. So again, if you have questions, please contact us. I hope in the next webinar, I'll be able to show more progress on our new editor. And of course, if we release new features by then, we'll cover those as well. And Karen, do you think we have anything else, or that's it?
No, that's it. You've got just a lot of thank yous and applause. And Kelly says shalom to your little guy.
Shalom. Okay. Awesome. So this time a bit shorter. I like it. And we'll announce the next webinar soon. We might change the schedule of the next webinar. We're not sure yet, but we'll definitely do it in the next few weeks, and we'll let you know when.
Cool. And Lillian was asking about the last 4 seminars. All the seminars are on YouTube. Just go onto youtube.com/flashissue.
Yeah,
and they're in there.
Exactly. youtube.com/flashissue. If you go to videos, you can see a webinar from 1 week ago, 1 month ago, 2 months ago. Basically, all the top line, all the 5 first videos are the webinars, and all the other videos are, some of them are older. I recommend focusing on the newer ones. And if you need more in-depth explanations, just click on the help button at the top of Flashissue, and this will open up our support site with a lot of information, articles, and videos about how to use Flashissue. And that's it. Gal, tagit bye-bye.